welcome or welcome back. Today's just a little ranty rant. So, if you hate high stakes testing, join me as we complain about it and why it should be eradicated, dismantled, done away with, and all the things if you are in a state that does high stakes testing. My name is Joy. I'm a former educator. I was a teacher, I was a school counselor. I'm also a parent. Okay, so I've been in it, around it, and all through it, and I have a child who is also affected by it. So I have a lot of thoughts and a lot of opinions. So this might be all over the place, but bear with me. And also share your opinions down below if you have any additional grievances with high stakes testing, or recommendations you would like to give to parents. This is not a how to combat high stake testing blues. If you have a child with testing anxiety, this isn't that. This is more relatively educational on information you may not have considered about high stakes testing. And when I say high stakes testing, I mean state testing, state mandated testing that they decide if your child is smart enough or learned enough before they're promoted or retained or can graduate. Those types of tests that like predict or jeopardize their future. Those are the tests I'm talking about here in Texas. It has recently been called the STAR test, but growing up, I took text test, TOS test. We had Stanford 9, and you may have had your sorts where you are if you're not in Texas. And it's just a whole lot of. So let's get into it. First, I want to say this is a bunch of unnecessary stress, okay? Because at this point, post COVID, the test. Okay, let me start over. It's too much stress for no reason. They don't even use that information other than people at the top to get paid for it. And the people it stresses out the most is at the bottom and they don't get paid for it. But they are trying to get rid of people's jobs based on how kids perform on this test. There's a lot of things wrong with this test, and I'm going to get into that. But the reason I say it's unnecessary stress is one, it does not even track what they're telling you or what you would like to assume, because a lot of parents want their kids to do well because you think it's part of their success and academic progress, and it does count. It's a grade. It does say something on paper. But first of all, or second of all, whichever of all we're on, the test in Texas, they changed the passing rate to a failing grade. Like you need a 70 to pass your classes. To pass the state test is less than the 70. So you failing is still like that's how ridiculous it's gotten. That technically, if you were to make the grade in a classroom setting, you would fail that class. But if you make it on STAR, which is what it is now, you'd pass the STAR. Like it's just a bunch of mess, and people are making a lot of money off of these tests. People at the top and people who cannot take these tests. So we're gonna get into why I don't promote or like it, or agree with it, and am completely against it. I was against it even as an educator, and even as I was slowly finishing school. When I was younger, I remember the test being basic and simple. So I did think it was questionable if people didn't pass. Back then, um, what you call summer school was mandatory. And I think it was fair as somebody who had to take the test every year. I am a test taker, so I'm relatively biased. But however, the test was written for our grade level and what we should have learned. So either you learned what you needed to learn or you didn't. And so it makes sense if you were retained or had to go to summer school and retake it if you didn't pass it, because it was basic, it was simple. This was decades ago at this point. But I thought it made sense. I didn't have a problem with it. Everybody's not good at taking tests. So even then, it was relatively biased in the sense that people who are not test takers, if that is going to depict their fate, that isn't fair. Also, it's not culturally sensitive, which we'll get into more in just a minute. But the test now, the test now is written in a way that the people who are forcing your kids to take it wouldn't pass it. And I can say this as a teacher, I was an AP student. I have a master's degree. Me and my colleagues, we would take these tests, the practice test, the old test. And there's questions we were just like, why did they overcomplicate this? And there were certain questions we're like, what the hell do they want us to do? Like, we could do this. Like, it was so vague or just too wordy. It was crazy. It was ridiculous that even as adults with degrees, collectively in a group, we were like, what the hell is this? Now, just imagine if we've been there, done that, learned it, we're even teaching it, and we're confused. The kids are also like WTF. They have to be, because we're like WTF. And so at one point, I don't know if it's relevant now that I'm removed. I'm grateful to be gone, but I do wish I knew how things were going. But by the time I left the classroom, They were having these tests written standardly, allegedly, and then they would be sent off to other companies and or higher ed to be rewritten and made more rigorous and or difficult by college students or professors or whoever to make them harder intentionally. Why would they do that? Either you want them, let me tell you, when I was teaching fourth grade, there were things that could have been simplified. The question should have been one sentence, and it was like six sentences, enough sentences to confuse everybody involved, right? And what would happen is they switch the test instead of just seeing if your child knows how to add. They want them to know how to add a specific way. Why? I don't know. Because back in my day, and what I believe is that as long as you can do it, as long as you know how to get to the answer and it's going to be correct every time you do it that way, do it your way. And you would think, based on them wanting differentiation, we are required as teachers to teach kids based on how they learn numerous ways. So we can have kids get to the same answer different ways. Every kid can do a different way, and as long as they can do it. But when it comes to the state test, they may only test them in one of those ways that they feel like they should know it. So now you have to teach every kid 10 different ways to do the same thing, and then they'll be tested on the way they probably don't know how to do it on their weakest point. And so now they're being docked as if they didn't learn it when they could have done that problem if they could have done it, right? If they were just to solve the problem, if the question was to just solve the problem, the kid could solve the problem. But what happens is the test, and specifically on this one, math, it would give them pictures and graphs and say which of these represent. If the kid would not do it that way, they don't know. And the fact of the matter, that doesn't prove if they can count. That doesn't prove if they can add or multiply. It doesn't prove anything. It's please don't piss me off. Like, it's written to make them fail. And thanks to No Child Left Behind, we can argue about No Child Left Behind. Some kids need to get left behind because they don't learn the same way. And if you feel like, oh, I love No Child Left Behind, everybody's a fair chance, let me tell you, that's why people can't read. Because what happened is they changed the standard in which kids can get promoted. And now kids are getting promoted that have not reached the standard to say they've learned it. And so whether your child knows how to count or not, they get promoted. Whether your child learns how to read or not, you get promoted. You're proud because, oh, my baby went to the next grade. Your kid is struggling, can't do it, can't keep up. Now, at one point, the high stakes testing mattered at fifth grade, eighth grade, and to graduate high school. So your kid is going to keep getting promoted thanks to No Child Left Behind, rather than getting left behind maybe 1 year to get caught up and learn everything because they needed more time with it, which is fine. And now they'll be good from here on out. This kid is now in fifth grade, can't read, can't do basic math and arithmetic. Now they're going to be failed in fifth grade when they could have just been held back in kinder or first grade, right? And now you have bullying and low self-esteem, and parents are now mad. Well, how did they get this far if they couldn't do it? Why did y'all promote them? No Child Left Behind says not to leave them behind even if they don't know it. And then they want to do No Child Left Behind and then give a test that's made to give everyone defeat. The system is rigged. I'm trying to tell you, as someone who was in the system, they don't want you to know. So I'm going to tell you, you should not put too much pressure on it. If it is your child needs to pass, great. But as far as you being super strict and hard on your kids, be mindful. They are set up to fail in the education system in a lot of ways. And high stakes testing is one of them. They're teaching to the test. So they're teaching everything. Instead of teaching what kids need to know, because teachers' jobs are on the line, they're trying to teach to the test. And so if it's not on the test, the kids probably aren't learning it or not learning it thoroughly because the teachers have to pay bills. They have families to take care of and things like that. They have to live. So it's not their fault. It's the system itself. And so there's a lot of politics and red tape in education. And so most of the school year is spent on practice tests and tests to see if you're going to do better than the last practice test, all the way up until time you take the real test. Kids are burned out, teachers are burned out. And guess what? These tests don't even test what you think they're going to test. They're not saying, can your child count? It's saying, can your child count like this? And if your child can't count like this, they decide your child can't count. You can't tell me that's fair. And then if you're not from here, or if you're not American, or if English is not your first language, if you have a different culture, even if you are American, because people are silly. If you're American but come from a different culture, the language they use on these tests, every culture is not familiar with. When I taught sixth grade, I had a kid We did a practice test. We were going over reviewing it. So I was making sure the kids know how to answer that type of question the next time they take the test. Other things. There was a question and it said the word patio, patio. In that neighborhood, kids didn't have patios, and if they did, they didn't refer to them as patios. They knew porches, and they would say out front or out back. These kids don't have balconies, so patio was a word they did not know. So what happened? We learned about ratios, and ratio is spelled like patio, but thanks to American English, they're spelled the same but pronounced completely different. Patio is patio, ratio is ratio, but they don't even rhyme. And so kids thought it was a typo and they're like, oh, this is something to do with ratios. So they interpreted the question based on what they did know, which was ratio. Everybody doesn't have a patio. Everybody doesn't know what a patio is. So these are things that are not culturally sensitive. The test is not culturally sensitive, let alone it's not diverse enough to address different learning styles or different ways. Again, it's not direct. It's not saying what is the answer to this, solve for X. This multiplied by this is what? It's saying if I do this and this happens to somebody and so go gets that and bring it back 25 times and then it is, which of these pictures, graphs, images represent what happened in the story? We don't care. Do you want the answer or not? Like, just say do 25 times 6. Like, what are we talking about? Again, this is a rant, so I'm gonna be a little upset. So it's not written for people to pass it. It's not. It's not written for your child at that age and grade to pass it. And the kids who do well are performing above average. So if you have a high achieving student, great, that is acing these exams and getting approaching, I mean, not approaching, masters level, they are performing way above grade level. They're probably ahead of the average because the test, like I said, is ridiculous. And the people who are forcing people to take these tests could not pass the test because also the people at the top haven't been in the classroom, so they don't know what happens in there. But anyways, I digress. So this negatively impacts everybody involved. Teachers stress, children stress, parents stress. Teachers can leave their jobs, children can be retained, parents will be embarrassed or upset, and they feel helpless and don't know how to help their kids. It's bad for everybody. It's bad for the economy. It's a waste of paper. It's online now. It's a waste of Wi-Fi. It's just not helpful. It doesn't prove anything to anybody. And so much time and money is spent on these tests only for what? For people at the top to make more money. And everybody at the bottom suffers. Now that's very on trend for American culture in general. Different rant for a different day. But I know I'm speaking from Texas. If you're not in Texas and y'all don't have high stakes testing, that is amazing. But here in Texas, it's out of control. Um, and so there used to be ways you can opt out. I don't know what it is current day, but I would tell you to do your research. There's Facebook groups to help you with this if you have a kid who does not test well. There's certain ways that as long as your child is passing all their classes, sometimes that can be used as enough to fight for them to be promoted without taking the test, or even if they don't pass the test. There used to be an opt-out form here in Texas, but they removed it and then they changed it because you simply could just say like, my child's not taking this test, and they couldn't force your child to take your test. Your child would stay home that day and nothing would happen. But I think as more people fussed about this and caught wind of it and more people were doing it, they took away that form or they made it very difficult to find on the internet. If I were you and you're in this position, look for it. I personally have never put pressure on my son to pass these tests because I know how they're made and I think they're stupid. And I know they're not learning what's on that test. And at this point, they're not learning much at all. I just tell my son to do the best he can for his schoolwork, pass all his classes, and whatever happens, happens. Because this single-handedly ruins people's education, like their experience in education as a student. And teachers, we also would feel bad for students because we're following the rules. It's just a corrupt system like all the other systems in America. But it's bad. And I don't have a point. I'm just sharing my thoughts and my grievances because I probably would have gotten more trouble than I did when I was working there if I did this when I was working. But now that I'm removed, I can say what I want unless somebody gets the video taken down. But I didn't say anything wrong or illegal. This is all from my personal experience with being a test administrator. to the person who supervises the children when they take the test. I've had to review the test. I've read the test in different grade levels for different ages, and it's gotten worse. So much so when I was in high school, this is when my grievance first started. When I was in high school, I am a high achieving student. I am I love school and I love learning. I learned pretty easily. I didn't have to study. I had that advantage. But I did see a lot of my counterparts who had made it to 12th grade who now could not graduate. The number of students, if I'm not mistaken, it was over 100 students that were now dropping out or finding another school senior year to make sure they graduate because they had now made it to 12th grade and couldn't pass the test, but they kept getting passed along because of No Child Left Behind, and now they couldn't graduate. These kids should not have been all the way halfway through 12th grade before they realized they couldn't graduate because of this. If they didn't have the skills to graduate, why are they in the 12th grade? You see what I'm saying? I know everybody wants to graduate and everybody's happy about being promoted, but if you don't know it, it's going to catch up with you. And for everybody who cheated their way through high school, you graduated, you cheated your way through college, you would argue you can still get there. You can get the job, you can know people, but will you be able to keep it? Will you be able to move up? Is there a lot of idiots at the top? Yes. I don't know why you would be intentionally and willingly an idiot, but that's your life. But I'm just saying, if you were trying to raise your child or children a certain way and the education system is frustrating you and you don't know what's going on, this is what my videos are for. I'm trying to help you know what's going on so you can make informed decisions, and hopefully find ways to help your kids in ways the school itself may not, or find out ways the school should be helping your kids and they're just not doing it.